Welcome everyone to the Coalition for Marriage YouTube channel. Wonderful to have you back with us. If you're joining us for the first time, just a little reminder that the Coalition for Marriage is the UK's largest pro-marriage organisation. We support marriage between one man and one woman. Not that other relationships don't exist. It needs to be promoted and supported because it is unique and especially significant. And it's a pleasure to have a guest with us today from another country, from Hungary, where many of you may know that they do have some very special family promoting policies. It's a joy to welcome Balázs Molnár, who is a Vice President of the Maria Kopp Institute of Demography and Families. Balázs, would you like to say hello?
Hello, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very grateful that I can speak about our wide-ranging family policy.
Excellent. And let me just start off by saying your English is wonderful. I have no Hungarian. I practiced a phrase to say hello, but I bottled it at the last minute because it's not very good. But thank you very much for being willing to join us. What we're going to do is talk to Balázs a little bit about the background to Hungary's family policies and a little bit about the Maria Kopp Institute, first of all. Balázs's background, his own background, is as a lawyer and a diplomat. And I wonder, Balázs, would you like to just begin telling us a little bit about your background?
Certainly, thank you very much. Well, as you have said, I'm a lawyer from profession. I worked as a diplomat for the last good decade, representing Hungary in Vienna at our embassy to the United Nations, and then in Brussels, where I also covered family policy, social policies at the permanent representation of Hungary to the European Union. And then when moving back to Hungary in 2016, I was Deputy State Secretary for European Union Affairs. And I started to work here at the Maria Kopp Institute, which was launched around that time in 2018. The government decided to establish a public institute for researching and analyzing family policies, but also one of our very important subject or topic is to build a pro-family alliance, not just in Hungary, but also in the world and in Europe in particular. So in that sense, the diplomatic work did not stop just because I left the diplomatic service. And in that sense, our institute is carrying out research and analysis. Now we have data from the last 10 years, so it is already a decade, which we can certainly say that overarching family policies do influence behavior. And we certainly know from research going back to the 90s, which was done by Maria Kopp, who was a psychiatrist professor and our name giver in that sense, that Hungarians wish to have more children than they at the end have. And we are also trying to close that gap and of course analyze the problems. We have much less babies born than necessary for the renewment of the population. Practically there is no European Union country in that sense, including the UK as well, where we would have enough babies born.
So to summarize, your rationale, or the country's rationale, is simply to repopulate the country, if you like, with Hungarians, because your demographic rate, your reproduction rate has gone down so much, and you see the way of addressing that as investing in family policies. So Balázs, we know that there are different definitions of the term family, and we have a very wide and loose definition in the UK. It can basically mean anything. Could you tell us how you define family?
Certainly. Well, we are very close to what you have started this discussion. So in Hungary, we have a new constitution that was adopted in 2010 and came into force in 2011. And it says that Hungary shall protect the institution of marriage as the union of one man and one woman established by voluntary decision, and the family as the basis of the survival of the nation. And of course, it continues by saying that Hungary shall support the commitment to have children. So we have a very traditional sense of marriage and very traditional sense of family in the constitution. Nevertheless, the Hungarian law allows for civil partnership of same-sex couples, but it does not put that equal to marriage. We very much advocate for the traditional marriage. We can advocate for strong marriages. We can help families to stay together.
Okay, just so people get an idea of what sort of policies you've put in place over recent years. You don't want people to have children who wouldn't otherwise want to have children, but for those who do, you don't want to allow other things to disincentivize them. You want them to have as many as they would want to have. So what sort of things have you put in place to deliver that?
In 2010, it was 106,000 families receiving some sort of a tax cut. And now it is more than 1 million, because family taxation had been reintroduced right away at 2010. It started from the fiscal year of 2011. This is something where we have at least twofold interest. One is that the government helps with the cost of childbearing. On the other hand, it also channels Hungarians towards legitimate employment and activation. So it is not a social aid, but it is related to your legitimate employment, where we can see that in the last 10 years, we have in a country of 9.7 million, we have nearly 1 million more in employment than in 2010. If we look at it from the economical point of view, it is also worth, because this money, or most of this money, is indeed spent within the country. Families are buying Hungarian services from it, Hungarian goods from it, so it also did very good to the economy. We have some measures which are quite unique. The Hungarian family system allows for a real choice for families and for mothers in particular. So you can decide to stay home with one baby 3 years, and you will have family benefits for that 3 years. But you can also decide so, or the family can decide so, that you can return back to the labor market, and there will be many possibilities helping that choice. One is that we have an overarching system of public creches, public nurseries, and we have a 30% increase in nursery places in the last 12 years. And on the other hand, we also made it possible that if the child passed the age of 6 months, a mother or a father in that sense can return back to work to the labor market without any limitations, can take up employment, and they can keep the benefit. Why is that so important? Because we are still a relatively poor country, despite of quite good GDP growth in the last couple of years. It was not worth necessarily to work in part-time, because the part-time wages did not make work pay. But with the benefits that could be kept by the family, and of course the part-time wage which was paid for your part-time employment, altogether, and of course the nursery possibilities did account for many women returning to the labor market. We have very unique one-time or one-off measure. So it will mean that every family who pays taxes, personal income taxes, will be refunded up to a threshold. The threshold is the average incomes tax level. So practically it means that if one of the parents took up the family taxation, but the other one was working as well, quite a large share of his or her tax will be refunded mid-February. So this is something which is planned, and it will be a one-off measure, because it costs a lot of money, of course. But again, shows the commitment of the government or the country to acknowledge from a faster economic recovery, a faster economic growth, that this was achieved jointly by the Hungarians, by the families. And there, for example, we do not make any distinction whether you raise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 children.
And I understand that you've got other incentives around buying homes.
Yes.
Other things for larger families, but just to get a feel of the overall package, what sort of other things do you have?
If we ask Hungarians where they would like to live when they are 45 years of age and they have family, more than 90% say that they would like to own their own home. So the government in that sense is responding to that need as well, and helps Hungarian families to purchase either a used home or even a new home. There is one marriage-related component in it. Anyone can take up the housing benefits, but there is a possibility in the law that you can also say that I have now 1 children, 2 children, and you can say that I will have 3 children. And for these future children, if you are married, you can also say that I will have with my wife together 3 children, despite the fact that I do not even need to have at all at the point of asking for it. You can also say that I would like to have the higher amount for 3 children. This is only open for married couples. We because of course we would like to see the stability behind the commitment. But of course, in any other way, also single parents and also cohabiting parents may ask for these possibilities. If the family already has a home and pays off mortgages, then there was a rule introduced in 2018, and then it was expanded in 2019, that your already existing mortgages will be partly written off when you have a second child, third child, fourth child born. And in case of the third child, a relatively incredible 12,000 euro is written off your already existing mortgages. And then we have had a big package of so-called family protection action plan, and one point was support for purchasing cars for large families. Large families, 3+ in Hungary, so 3+ children. These large families can purchase a car, which is a 7-seater. It has to be a 7-seater, and you receive roughly £6,800 towards the purchase price. This is a subsidy. You do not have to pay it back. Two measures are targeting those who would like to give birth at a younger age. One is that if you are a university student, or you are giving birth right after your university or tertiary education, then you will receive a higher maternity benefit than you would have because you do not have the prior Social Security contributing periods. So this is something where the tertiary education time is taken into account as it would have been working, which is of course not the case. And the other one is that we see that we in Hungary have more women in tertiary education than men. I believe this is a global trend now. But of course, well-educated women would like to make a career as well. What the government has decided that mothers, it only targets mothers who still have outstanding student loans, will be able to reduce their student loans by the remaining half if they give birth to a second child, and the entire amount which is still to be paid by the mother is taken over by the state if that woman received a third child. But maybe last sentence about the more philosophical nature is that many of the measures are addressed in a manner of intergenerational solidarity. We would like to have more solidarity between the grandparents' age and of course the grandchildren's age as well. And of course, well, the so-called sandwich generation would need assistance and help in many ways. Some family policy measures can help that or can boost that. One is that we have the possibility that a family measure may be taken up by the still active grandparents. Another possibility is that women who worked 40 years in their life, they can go to pension without reaching the pensionable age, something which helps grandmothers to be around and help their children. And the newest measure as of January 1st in 2021, we had the possibility that attic conversions are financed as an individual building site, so to say. So if they had a separate entrance, you could have all the housing benefits if you converted an attic.
What happens when things go wrong in Hungary? And also maybe you could comment on the issue similarly with single parent mums especially. There's a disincentive for the mother and the father to move in together because they lose benefits and they can lose a considerable amount of benefits. How would you deal with those things in Hungary?
It is indeed a very important subject you raised there, Tony, and this also shows that from the economical perspective and of course the social price perspective, working for marriages and trying to stabilize relationships and incentivizing staying together instead of incentivizing getting divorced or separation. Why is that so important? It is also very important because of the children, because we all know that children from intact families, they do fare better in education, in criminal records, and so on. Which does not mean that divorce would not happen, and also that the state should do anything about that. On the other hand, advocating for marriages and advocating for stable partnership is something which we believe that is important. We have more children born in wedlock in 2020 than we had in 2010. Single parent families are helped in many ways in Hungary. We have a little bit higher benefits for those who raise children alone. This is not that much higher that it would prevent them from marrying. It would incentivize separation or not living as a family, as you rightly mentioned. And as I have said, the constitution is very clear in that regard as well, that we support marriage, we support child rearing, and we believe that without families as a basic building block of the society, we will not have a happy and prospering society. If I may quote two quite promising numbers. One is that we have roughly twice as many marriages in 2020 than in 2010, and the 2021 figures are just as promising. Just because we have much more marriages, we do not see a negative trend in terms of divorces. And we have now 15,000 divorces, and we used to have 24,000 in 2010. So there is a more than 30% decrease in divorces. You can give a lot of incentives financially, yes, but of course we believe that it is just as important that we create a pro-family or a family-friendly environment in the country.
But then how have you achieved this politically? So we've had a right of centre government in power for a number of years now. The idea of focusing around family, the idea of focusing around family units and stability is not something that's seen as a government priority. I wonder, how has that been achieved in Hungary, and how could we influence such a thing in the UK?
We have it relatively easy from at least two perspectives. One is that Hungarians are traditionally pro-marriage and pro-child and pro-family. And on the other hand, the political will is there from the central right government. What we can see is that apart from some aggressive lobby groups, family policy measures are taken up very well by the society. So the political commitment is there. The financial possibilities came with the more and more sound Hungarian economy. What I have tried to tell you is that family policy can contribute to activation and legal legitimate employment. That again generates a lot of tax revenues. And again, with the more and more financial resources available to families, that will also result in a lot of internal consumption, and on the other hand, a lot of VAT flowing into the budget.
Well, as a father of four, happily married father of four, I just think of those benefits in the UK. That would be fantastic. But there we are. Thinking about the future, Balázs.
We would like to continue these incentives, and we would like to keep on trying to help families to have the desired number of children. We will continue to advocate for marriage. We will continue to advocate for stability. And as I have said, it is very important that we have stability in the economy. We have stability in the labor market, because these all very much influence the demographic tendencies. We have one measure I would like to talk about. This is the so-called baby expecting subsidy. The baby expecting subsidy is a possibility which is open for married couples. So practically this is for young married couples who are still in the childbearing ages. And this is a possibility that you can take roughly 28,000 pounds. And this can be seen as a loan, with a very favorable loan. And if you have 3 children, this can be completely turned into a subsidy. The government is not saying on what you can spend this money. It is completely up to the family.
Outside of the just giving money, which is a great incentive, and it really makes a big difference, what sort of other things do or don't Hungary get involved with from a policy perspective?
There are very strong guarantees in the Hungarian legal system for what might and what might not happen to a child in the public education. But we do not believe that we should interfere in, for example, the rights of the parents to how they would like to educate their children. this is a very important point when we come to some NGOs, for example, whether they are allowed access to public schools or not. Because we believe that a parent should always be at least informed about who will speak to their children, about what, because this is up to us parents to decide about, for example, the religious and sexual upbringing of our children.
I think it's excellent work. It really is supporting the sort of thing that we would support as an organisation. Can I thank you very much for your time? Thank you very much for the work you do. Look forward to following it closely and keeping in touch, and perhaps we'll have you on again in the not too distant future, and you can tell us how it's all going.
It would be my pleasure. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Balázs Molnár, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much indeed.